Welcome to the Lesbian Romantic Podcast. This is Connection Revealed, Part 3. September 19th, 2063. White Sands Army Base, New Mexico, North American Province, 2:30 p.m. local time. Michelle rolled her eyes when she saw the message come in. She immediately recognized the name in the security report's subject. That wacky scientist had been up to something again. I can't take this right now, Michelle thought as she rubbed her forehead, but opened the report anyway. She had had a rough morning. The storm had been more severe than expected. It had cut all power at the base. Of course, the backup batteries had kicked in, but it had taken a while before they did. She had already grabbed a flashlight and left her office before the lights finally had come back on. Needless to say, Michelle was furious. Having the whole base plunge into darkness for several minutes was dangerous. Sue is being out in the desert during a storm, she mumbled as she scanned the report on her screen. This woman is crazy. Jade Turner was a civilian scientist working at the base. She had been a pain in the ass since the day Michelle had taken over command. There had already been quite a few incidents, but it looked like Turner had outdone herself today. Not only had she gone out into the desert without authorization to do so, she had also managed to get stuck in the storm while out there. Worse, base security hadn't noticed until she had somehow made her way back to the gates. Security had spotted a pod traveling at high speed with an irregular trajectory. They had sent out a warning, after which Turner had finally sent an emergency signal identifying herself. Security had let her come up to the outer gate and confirmed her identity with both iris and fingerprint scans. The power had gone down just as the gate closed behind Turner's pod, which meant it had been ajar until the backup batteries had kicked in. It was a mind-boggling security breach that made Michelle's blood boil instantly. This was precisely why no one was supposed to go in or out during a storm. Sanctions would follow for the soldiers involved. And Turner? Michelle had never met the woman. All of the previous incidents had been handled through administrative channels. Michelle had always refused to meet Turner in person to listen to her appeals. Now, she wanted to meet the woman. Michelle was personally going to inform Turner that she was no longer allowed to live on the base. If Turner couldn't abide by the rules, she should go live and work elsewhere. Michelle leaned back in her chair. There would probably be some pushback from the global government when she kicked Turner off the base. Turner was living here at their request, working as the in-the-field scientist for an energy optimization project. That project wasn't more important than the security of this base and the global territory. Michelle would make sure to point that out to anyone protesting her decision. She moved to the edge of her chair, reaching for the screen she used to talk to her assistant. Michelle hesitated. She should focus on the power outage. She needed to know what the status was. Turner was nothing but a distraction, but demanding Turner to come see her right this minute would make her feel so much better. She looked forward to yelling at the woman. Her finger hovered over the screen. This sucks, Michelle thought, briefly reflecting on being an adult. She touched the screen and her assistant immediately popped up. Yes, ma'am? He asked. Get me... Michelle said slowly. She sighed. Get me Sergeant Strand. I need her to send me a report on the power outage. She just sent one in, ma'am, Michelle's assistant replied. Michelle's nostril flared. She did? Yes, ma'am. Do you want me to send it to your tablet? No. Thanks. She tapped the screen again and opened her inbox. Sure enough, a message from Sergeant Strand was waiting for her at the top of the list. Michelle opened it and frowned immediately. It was a short update. Cause outage still unknown. Backup capacity at 99%. Estimated hours of backup function, 164. Michelle quickly divided 164 by 7. They had less than a week of power left. If repairs were needed because of the storm, that could easily take a day or two, if not more. This was a dire situation. "Chris?" she asked, forgetting she had closed the connection with her assistant. Michelle rolled her eyes at her own mistake and pushed herself up. This was all going too slow. She would go see Sergeant Strand in person, storm or not. She didn't bother bringing her umbrella. September 19th, 2063. White Sands Army Base, New Mexico, North American province. 2:30 p.m. local time. Water drops dripped onto the carpet. Jade poked at it with her toe. She had quickly wrapped a towel around herself without actually toweling off. She was too impatient. She needed to get back to her office. The call came in just as she stepped into her tiny bedroom. She hurried over to where her watch was charging. Denise, her coworker at the nearest power plant in Texas, was finally calling her back. Jade accepted the incoming call through voice.
"Hello? The call's not working?"
Denise said. "It is," Jade replied, sitting down on her bed. "Just not the video. I'm not dressed."
"Okay,"
Denise said slowly.
"I thought you were at the office."
"I was," Jade said, tucking some wet hair behind her ear. "But I was soaked and needed to change."
"Soaked? What happened?"
Denise asked. Jade shook her head, getting impatient. "I got caught in the storm."
"You were in the desert today?"
Denise continued. "Yes," Jade said. "That's how I got the data." Water was dripping onto the bed, and she got back up, holding the watch close to her mouth. She could have transferred the call to her home system, but she didn't like how people's voices blasted through the speakers. It was off by default.
"It's a lot of data,"
Denise said.
"I can't believe you analyzed it manually."
"What do you think?" Jade asked. Goosebumps rose all over her body. The heat of the shower was wearing off.
"I wasn't able to go through it all yet."
Denise started. "Did you use the scripts I sent along?" Jade interrupted.
"I did."
Denise said. She sounded cautious.
"That helped to sort through most of it."
"And?" Jade asked, clenching her jaw.
"It seems highly unlikely, and yet the data does seem to suggest the power station is no longer charging the cells,"
Denise said, sounding reluctant. Jade stopped still. She had known she was right. She had double-checked and triple-checked the data before sending it all over to Denise for a second opinion. Still, hearing Denise concur with her made it all sink in for the first time. "So, we have about a week of backup power left," Jade said, more to herself than to Denise. "And we're using it right now because of the power outage. What if we don't get the power back in time?"
"I wouldn't immediately think about the worst-case scenario. There's plenty we can do to further understand this and restore charging,"
Denise immediately replied. "I know," Jade said, even though her gut told her that wouldn't happen, but she couldn't rule it out either. "Will you check your own data?"
"Of course,"
Denise said.
"I plan on running some extra tests tomorrow morning. I can't say I have noticed anything peculiar in the last days or weeks, though."
"Okay, good," Jade replied, nodding. "I'll get in touch with the project lead after this call."
"Yeah, you should,"
Denise said.
"She's been hard to reach lately, though."
Jade frowned. She, too, had had difficulties getting prompt feedback from the global project team. Even when she marked messages as urgent, the reply would often take several days. "Maybe I should try to go through the base commander here," she thought out loud.
"That would be highly unusual for this kind of issue,"
Denise replied hesitantly.
"Then again, the entire base is powered by your plant. If the cells run low, that could cause some serious issues."
"No kidding," Jade said, rubbing her cheek. The towel around her torso slid down and dropped onto the floor. She just looked at it.
Do you think this could be sabotage?
Denise asked. It was unlike her to speculate. Jade frowned. This hadn't crossed her mind yet. By whom?
The rebels, of course.
Denise immediately said.
They're not far, are they?
Now that seems unlikely to me, Jade said, shaking her head. She rubbed her arm because she was cold, but left the towel on the floor for now.
It's probably too early to speculate,
Denise said, apparently catching herself.
There might not even be a real problem. Could be a small glitch. I would alert the global team and have them look into it.
Jade thought of how people tended to deny a problem when it was too big to wrap their heads around it. It's how everyone had ended up with this dangerous climate they lived in. Climate change denial had postponed decisive action for far too long. And right now, Denise was quick to dismiss Jade's shocking findings. Jade couldn't do that. She could only think of the worst-case scenario. What if there was a structural problem and they couldn't get the cells to charge again? They would run out of backup power at some point, and then there would be nothing but simmering heat and dooming darkness. Much of the flooding management infrastructure would not work. They'd be left to the elements. And what if the problem wasn't limited to this base? I need to go, Jade said. See if you can do those tests earlier, okay? We need more data, ASAP. Denise didn't sound convinced.
I already did my whole tour today. I don't think...
Just try, Jade interrupted. If this is more than a glitch, we need to know ASAP. It will help the global team to have more data.
Okay.
Denise relented.
I'll see if I can go check a station or two.
Thank you, Jade said, and ended the call. Water drops still rolled down her chest. Fuck, she cursed to herself as she considered the situation. Protocol dictated she notify her superior first. That would take time, though. The team would want to double-check all data again. Then they'd want to understand what was causing the issue. Only then would they agree to notify the army. This project was never meant to deal with an emergency situation. Jade was here to spot opportunities, not alert everyone to emergencies. It would take her days before she could even convince her coworkers of the severity of the situation. Jade shivered. She didn't know if this was the cold or the adrenaline. She needed to decide on her next step. Every option she had was far from ideal. Jade picked up the towel and headed for her closet. This was part 3 of Connection Revealed. I'm back from vacation and working on the podcast as much as I can, and I want to thank all the people who helped me keep going. You know, I'm a small indie creator, and I'm going to be honest, it's not easy to keep going. It's what I want to do, and I want to share these stories freely so everyone has access to them. But that means I rely on listener support, and I want to thank the people who pledge to support me every month so I can plan ahead and know that I can spend some of my time working on the podcast. And so I want to thank Jamie, Natalie, Thea, Shirley, Chicken Nipples, and Delisa. And I want to thank everyone on Patreon, Rosie, Shinariel, and let me know if I pronounced that correctly, Laura, Melisandre, Madison, Rhonda, Stacy, Becky, PB, Sandy, Sue, and Kathy, Madison, Irene, Lou, Adam, Erica, Ray, Antonia, Sandy, Nairi, Reed, Trinda, and Bella. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Charlie is a good boy. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Lori, Ricky, Heidi, Elle, and Kat. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Sven, Valerie, Bree, Matthias, Emily, The Dash, Ariana, Charlotte, Marie-Hélène, Patricia, Annie, and Amber. And any one of you, if I pronounce your nickname or your name incorrectly, please let me know. I want to do this right. Sometimes I just don't know, I have to guess. So thank you all for helping me to keep going with this crazy adventure of romantic stories. And I'll get back to work and get the next episode to you as soon as I possibly can. Thank you. See you soon. Bye. Jade thought of how people tended to deny a problem when it... Jade thought of how people tended to deny a problem when it... Jade thought of how people tended to deny a problem.